remember me, the person who was trying to do 30 days of off the board? I kind of missed a few days, but I'm back. I actually had all of the layouts done. I just have not had the opportunity to do the voiceovers. So I'm back, and this is day 7. I'm going to probably just go ahead and do 2 videos a day until I get all caught up with the voiceovers, and then I should be back on track for the rest of the month. So I've got my relax mug that my amazing friend Carrera gave to me, and that's what I'm doing. I'm relaxing. And so I took on a bit of a big task for day 7 and day 8. I actually created a mini album. So I showed you my inspiration at the beginning, which was just kind of a template for making your own mini album out of one 12 by 12 page. I know that there's lots and lots of different ways that you can do this. I've never really done it before. I mean, maybe kind of on my own, I've folded things together and made, little like album type cards and stuff like that. I can remember doing things like that, but I thought I would take some time to kind of figure this out, use that template as a bit of a jumping off point to start creating this album. And then I have a whole bunch of these porch photos that I've been scrapbooking, and I've done a couple of them individually, but I have a bunch left and I wanted to have them all sort of put into one spot. So my plan for this was to make a mini album for myself and kind of work out all the kinks and see what I like and what I don't like, and work on the different templates. And then I'd like to actually make a couple more of them to give to the grandmas so that they all have their own little mini album with the grandkids in it. So that's really what this is. It's the inspiration from the photo, and I'll leave the link to that template down below. But it's kind of the inspiration from that template, but then me just using it as general guideline and doing my own thing with it, which me, that's what I like to do. So you can see here that I use the grid lines on my mat to kind of give myself a few measurements. And then I went ahead and used the little scoring knob on my paper trimmer to score all of my lines. And now I'm just trimming everything up to kind of make sure it all fits together. In the template, you'll notice that it does give the score lines where you actually cut these flaps a little bit thinner so that everything can kind of fold together and you can put a little bit of dimension and bulk into this and everything folds. But I haven't quite made it to that point yet. I wanted to just fold this up and see how it looked and what I could do with it, because I have way more pictures than this one photo, or this one 12 by 12 I should say, will actually hold. So I knew I had to do this a couple of times. So that was my first attempt, and now here I wanted to see if I could do something to kind of make a horizontal landscape type page that could go with it. I'm going to go ahead and give myself that little margin there that you see. And then I wasn't sure, I do end up just cutting these pages apart so they're individual. I wasn't really sure if that margin was going to give me enough of a little kind of holding spot for these 6 pages to kind of, to hold the 6 pages. So in the back of my mind, I did have the intention of, I guess I had the expectation that I would probably have to cut them all apart, because it's just maybe like a 1/4 inch, not even a 1/4 inch of space. But just while I was kind of playing with things and trying to figure it all out, I wanted those 3 pages all held together. But then you can see one of them ripped anyways. So, I'm going to go ahead and kind of use them as individual pages. I thought about maybe trying to reverse everything and have the flap and do everything, but in a landscape style, but I don't have that many landscape pictures, so I didn't need as many of those pages. So here you can see I'm just fiddling around. And honestly, that's the part that I really love about this project. I looked at the template. I had an idea for how I thought it should look, and then I'm just going to play around with it and make it work for me. So it's all about kind of figuring out how I want the pages to open up and where I want things to go and how I'm going to put this puzzle of an album together. And there are a lot of places now that sell, lots of cut file companies, I should say, that sell the cut files that will pre-score and pre-cut all of your pages for you and basically make everything that you need to put your album together. So you just take the cardstock, put it into your Silhouette or your Cricut or whatever you have and let it do its work, and then fold it all together on the dotted lines. But I kind of enjoy the process of doing this, where I'm, figuring it all out, and I'm engineering it, I guess you could say, and kind of just playing with it and making it really truly my own. I'll never be able to 100% replicate this. I could do all the same score lines. I could, make all the same measurements, but it won't ever come out exactly the same way, because it's just one of those things where you're kind of winging it and you're kind of just fitting things in as they work for you. So I kind of enjoy that. So for this piece of paper, I went ahead and used the little extra margins, so you can see where I cut them there, and I'll cut them up at the top. And again, that's just so that these pages will fold nicely and they don't overlap each other when the paper's all folded up. And so I knew I would probably have to have a few pages like that if I'm putting all three of these pieces together. So I went ahead and did that. Again, I didn't really measure. I kind of eyeballed it with my trimmer and just used the scoring tool on my trimmer. If you don't have the actual little sliding knob on your trimmer, you can still use your trimmer and then just use a bone folder in the groove where you would normally cut. Just use your bone folder down that groove. Most trimmers, you can kind of do that. Or if you have, any kind of, thinner tool, even a pencil, if you have a mechanical pencil, just don't push the lead through, and that little tip of your mechanical pencil is usually thin enough that you can kind of push it through the groove and score your papers that way. If you don't have a scoring board, you might have a scoring board as well. So here I have all of my pages, and now I'm just trying to figure out how I want to fold them all up, make sure that I have enough spaces for all of my pictures, and that they all kind of, nestle together really nicely, and that as you're going through the album, things are flipping up and flipping sideways, and you're opening and all that kind of stuff. So just to make it a really fun kind of interactive little mini album. And the cardstock that I'm using came from the Cardstock Warehouse. Thank you so much, Daisy. I went with this really beautiful kind of light blue color because there is a little bit of blue in my pictures. There's like this tint of blue to all of the pictures. And so I thought I could use that blue in certain spots if I don't want to add pattern paper or anything like that. It's just a really nice color to back my photos on, but it's also just really nice cardstock. It's not too thick, so it's folding really nicely, and it's kind of, with those little extra margins, everything's kind of folding and nestling together really nice. But it's thick enough that it's not going to completely fall apart after flipping through it a couple of times. The baby has actually manhandled this album a few times because he just loves to look at pictures. So it's lasting, it's holding up to him. So this page here, I'm using both the score tape and also some wet glue, because this is where I'm going to put the two pieces of paper together, the two 12 by 12s together. I want it to hold really, really tight. And I did think about maybe making it a pocket and, being able to tuck some tags and stuff into there. But I just wanted this portion of it to hold together really, really strong and tight and secure. So I decided not to do that. But I do make a little pocket in another section. And then here's one of the horizontal pages. So what I decided to do is have two of them sort of be the cover of the album, and that just made the album a little bit wider, so I could also stick the third page somewhere in the middle and it wouldn't be sticking out too awkwardly. So I'm just going to stick them together, and now there's 4 pages there, 2 in the front and 2 in the back, and they're just offset from each other a little bit. So again, that kind of just adds that little quirkiness to the album, that everything isn't perfectly lined up. So I'm using the score tape, and I'm also using the wet glue, that's the Scotch quick dry adhesive, or I guess they call it the tacky glue now. I'm just kind of using the score tape to hold the paper down until this wet glue has dried, and I will go back afterwards and actually sew a little seam into it. So it is glued and taped and sewn it for the binding, but I just wanted to start off with only having it taped and glued, because if it fell apart or if something like that happened, I wouldn't be ripping the paper. And so here, now that it's all together, I'm just going in and creating all those little gaps where I think I might need them. So as I'm folding the pages, if they're not folding together nice and flat, I'm just trimming the teeniest, tiniest little bit off of them so that everything folds together really nicely. And this is that center piece, the last section of the horizontal 4x6s. So I'm scoring the center of it a little bit more. I did create that margin, but I sort of scored in the margin a little bit too, so that it would fold a little bit nicer. And so that gave me a wide enough spot to put my tape, but then also it kind of folds flat and sits nicely inside the album. And I'm gluing that down as well. It is only temporary. I mean, it would hold, but I don't think it would hold up, especially to, the baby flipping through it and stuff like that. But it holds well enough for me to put it all together. And then once I have the pattern papers and everything in there, I go ahead and sew it just to secure it down. So there, now you can kind of see how the album is going to work. Again, anywhere that things are folding up, if I needed to just trim a little tiny section, that's what I'm going ahead to do. Like this piece here is actually on the inside, so I'm going to trim about 1/8 of an inch off of that just so it folds nicely. And there you can see all the pages. Now, in truth, I wasn't sure what to do with the flaps. I think the flaps in the original template, they look really cool, but I kind of wasn't sure if they were going to work as far as an album goes. So I do end up cutting them off, but for now, I'm kind of keeping them there to see what I might be able to do with them. And then this is a new day. So I actually took that, put the clips on it, and just let it sit to really dry well overnight. And now, new day, and I'm going to go ahead and cut all of my pictures. So I'm trimming them all down. Thankfully, these all work where they can be trimmed down. Obviously, if you've printed your pictures and you need the album to be a different size, you're going to have to go ahead and make it the right size. All of these pictures had a lot of space around them because the whole concept of the pictures was that we're sitting on our porch. So our photographer intentionally captured the porch and our front door and that kind of thing. So it made it really easy for me to trim them all down as much as I needed them. And then once I figured out where I wanted them to go, I just went ahead and wrote the number on the back, which makes it so much easier when you're going through the pictures and trying to put them back into order. If you've already cut them to a certain page, you want to make sure they end up on that page. And I do also put a little number on each of the pages as well, especially because I knew at this point that I was definitely going to be covering them with pattern paper. So I went ahead and just numbered all of the blue pages too, so that when the time came, I could just match everything up and stick them all down. All of the pictures are going to take up most of the page, so there isn't going to be a ton of embellishment. I just really wanted the pictures to shine, so there was no problem just marking on each of those pages because I knew it would get covered up. Obviously, if that isn't what you plan on doing, just mark the number somewhere that you know that it'll get covered up. You won't be able to see it. And this is where I'm going to finish this video. This is going to be a two-parter. So tomorrow you will see me putting this together with all the pattern papers and sticking the pictures down and embellishing it. If you have any questions at all, please leave them for me down below in the comments, and make sure to check out all of the links below as well. There's a whole list of everybody who's playing along daily and the ones who are popping in and out throughout the month. So please go and find all of their amazing inspiration and show them some love. And thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Until tomorrow, happy scrapping. Bye.